J'imagine ce jour, des milliers de gens. Peuple, aujourd'hui je suis libre. Je suis libre.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this running.
Poussière à la poussière.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you. If you're here watching me, kindly just share, click the share button and just invite people to join us. So this is a very important topic. It's so important for our youths and it's very important for all of us. What is it that we have to do? The very importance of it, we are going to be talking about it in this particular stream. So kindly join and share with your friends so we can all start off. I'm just going to leave it for a few minutes just to start having people, and then I will start streaming. Okay, okay, ladies and gentlemen, just after the very first class, after this one, we're just going to start right away. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and direct on this very important topic. This was advertised a few days ago, and today we are going to be talking on a very important topic that is really affecting us as Africans and especially the African youths. So welcome back to my channel, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, you'll be seeing me moving my head left and right because I have another screen here where I will be talking from. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking on this very important topic, issues that shape our world and importance our lives as well. Today, we are diving into a very significant topic, decolonizing the mindset of African youths and tackling the massive migration to Europe, America, and other parts of the world. And this is what has plagued the African continent over more than 10 decades. And we want to know why. Why are youths leaving? Why are we not at home? Why is it that Africa, which is endowed with natural resources, with the best of natural resources, and yet we are always running out of Africa? What is chasing us out of Africa? What are we looking for that is not in Africa? But most importantly, how can we resolve this problem? How can we as Africans build Africa for Africans? How can the youth of today actually participate in building and shaping the Africa that we truly want? Make Africa that same dream country that we all run out from Africa to go to. The European countries that we think they are the heaven on earth. But how can we make Africa the heaven on earth? Because indeed, Africa is heaven on earth. We are the youths of Africa. How can we build Africa? Today, we are going to be talking on diverse areas. What prompts people to leave Africa? How can the youth of Africa rebuild Africa? What should we do as Africans to limit the increased migration to European countries, to slavery? Because when we move out of Africa, we go into slavery. We think maybe we are going into freedom, but at the end of the day, when you put everything together, and you will see that we are moving into slavery. So how can we tackle this issue? But what is even prompting our youth to leave Africa? That is what we'll be looking at in today's segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, imagine an Africa where African youth see the boundless beauty, the boundless opportunities within their own countries. Let us all imagine an African country, a continent, then countries within Africa where the youth of those nations really sit and imagine the boundless opportunities that are within their countries. How can they explore those opportunities? How can they benefit from the very blessings that are within the African continent? That is what we'll be talking about today. A future where they are all empowered, confident, and determined to contribute to the growth and prosperity of their homeland. But unfortunately, it's really unfortunate. The reality today is different because many young Africans feel compelled to leave their home countries in search of better opportunities abroad, often risking their lives on perilous journeys. It is no news what we see our young Africans go through in the Mediterranean, in the Sahara Desert. We see what they go through just to leave their own country. But what the question we are asking ourselves today is, why do Africans leave Africa? Why is it that when you sit amongst the youth and you mention the words staying in Africa and developing Africa, the youth, you see a level of anger, frustration, bitterness in our youth? What causes this? They don't think about the risks involved. They don't care about it. All they want to do is leave Africa. But what is prompting them to leave Africa? We have a number of factors that have been put together that cause this, that really causes this in such migration. But let us begin to tackle them one after the other. And at the end of this discussion, as a youth, as an African youth who loves the continent to grow, who wants to rebuild Africa, who sees what the world is not saying, we want to be able to decolonize our minds, to be able to know that Africa holds the world in its hands. We can all agree when the Copenhagen Conference during the World Climate Conference in Copenhagen. They said, if the world sinks, if Africa sinks, the world sinks, because Africa is literally the foundation of the world right now. But how can we utilize the beauty, the resources that we have in Africa to rebuild Africa so that the youth of Africa can stay in Africa and value the natural resources, the talent that we have within Africa? Like I said, what is the driving force behind the exodus in Africa? Ladies and gentlemen, we have countless factors that have pushed our young men and women. A young man who is 15 years old no longer thinks of living in Africa. The only thing he has in his or her mind is to leave Africa for a better future. But what is prompting them? Let us begin to look at the economic aspect, the educational aspect, and any other aspect that could be a reason why our African youth are leaving Africa to go and suffer in other countries with the hope that they are going for a better future, or they are going to a greener a land full with milk and honey, or looking for greener pastures abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, today's topic, we are talking about decolonizing the mindset of African youths so that they can actually build a future back home. Decolonizing the minds of African youths. So decolonizing the mind of African youth is not just about understanding our past, but also about reshaping our future, which is very important. It's very important for us to understand the past and also to reshape our future, because it's only when we understand actually what causes us to believe that we can only succeed out of Africa. Once we begin to understand these aspects, then we will be able to reshape our future and make Africa a home for Africans, a place where everybody can long to be, just like we long to be in America, in Europe, in other parts of the world. Let us make Africa a place where people can also long to be. So while we are reshaping our future, it involves redefining resources, fostering innovations, creating environments where young people can flourish, can strive. From educational reforms to economic empowerment to cultural revivals to good governance, as well as every other thing that comes with empowering the youth of Africa. Innovation, modern innovations. So in this segment today, we are going to cover all these aspects that are crucial to the transformative journey of Africa, rebuilding Africa for Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to also be looking at inspiring stories, practical solutions, actionable steps that can help us achieve this vision. Whether you are a young African seeking hope and direction, a policymaker, or simply someone who cares about the future of Africa, or who cares about the future of Africa like I do, I actually care about the future of Africa a lot. And that is why when I sit and I look at what we have in Africa and the situation of our young people in Africa, why we are even where we are today, it breaks my heart. And this is why we must, as the young people, the youth of Africa, rise and speak about these things and help ourselves to decolonize our minds, because our minds have already been made up. It's just like a robot that has been built. And so we only think that it is only when we are out of Africa that we can truly succeed as African. But no, I want us to start rethinking and reshaping our mindsets, re-strategizing to see how Africa, what Africa is, what Africa has to offer to us, the Africans, because the Europeans value Africa more than us Africans value Africa. Americans value Africa more than us Africans value Africa. And the reason why they value Africa is because of the natural resources that are endowed in the African continent that they come and extort in the middle of the night. This is why we must ask ourselves, why is it that even after so many years of independence, there is still scramble for Africa by these Western powers? Why is it that they are still scrambling for Africa? Have you sat down to ask yourself why? Why is it that in every African country, there is a strong presence of a European country or an American country or any country of the Americas? China, Asia, all of these countries in Asia, strong countries in Asia, those in the Americas and those in Europe. Why do they still have a very strong presence in Africa? Let us ask ourselves why. But we've refused to ask ourselves tough questions to ourselves so that we can find solution. But today, let us look at some of these issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we'll be going by segment to segment. What are the economic problems? What are the economic problems? Let's understand the problem. And while we are doing that, I would like to show us images of giant nations in Africa. The streets of giant nations. I want to start with Nigeria. Nigeria, that is called the powerhouse of Africa. Why are the streets of Nigeria looking like this? These are the streets of Lagos, Nigeria. Why are we having this in a country like Nigeria? Ladies and gentlemen, why do we have these images in a place like Nigeria? Why are our youth on the streets all the time fighting? Why are the youth always on the street fighting? This is the powerhouse of Africa. Why does the streets of Nigeria look like this? These are the problems that are pushing our youth to leave the country. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let's understand the problem. Many African youths feel the need to migrate to European countries due to a combination of factors, including economic instability, lack of opportunities, the pervasive influence of colonial mentality, which is very important, which is why we are talking about, we are having this conversation today. Colonial influence over our mentality. This mindset often equates success with Western standards and lifestyle. I remember I was watching Professor Lumumba once, and he said something that when he went to Nigeria or to London and he was talking to a group of African youths who are successfully based in the United Kingdom, and he said he got his PhD in the most prestigious university in the United Kingdom. And he asks, what education did you get? You are an African youth. Was your education on your African culture and your values, or was it about the European culture and their values? Because we have the mindset that success only comes with the Western world. Because we believe that there is nothing. They came and brainwashed us to a point that we must at all time think that success only comes when we are in the Western world, or the Western world is equated with success. So there is nothing. When we see Africa, we see poverty. When we see Africa, we see suffering. But that is because we've allowed them to exploit everything that we have in Africa to enrich their own countries. We've allowed them to exploit the natural resources that we have in Africa to build their own countries, to make it look like it's all successful. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to change our mindsets. Western standard and lifestyle, that success is not only within the Western world or in the Americas. No, Africa is more than successful. Why do we think, ladies and gentlemen, let's say according to the International Organization for Migration, over 80% of young Africans consider migrating for better opportunities in Europe. Over 80% of young Africans consider migrating to Europe. Why? Why do we have the mindset that it is only in the Western world that we can succeed, that Africans can succeed? Why do we equate success to the West? For example, ladies and gentlemen, the population of Nigeria alone is about 228.9 million. Nigeria is called a powerhouse not for nothing. About 228.9 million, that is of 2023. And the revenue that Nigeria gets its revenue, let's say just from the oil and gas sector, it has over 394.02 billion over the world. And it's the 11th largest oil producing country globally. That is an African country. And we have other countries like Libya, we have Gabon, we have Mauritius, we have other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, so in Nigeria, they can produce over 1.6 billion barrels of oil in a single day. Where is this money going? Why do the streets of Nigeria still look the way they are looking? Why do we still have the streets of Lagos littered? People struggling on a daily basis to survive. When we have people, the economy of Nigeria is unimaginable. Just the oil sector alone produces that much in a year. And on a daily basis, it produces 1.6 billion barrels of oil. It's the 11th largest producing country in the whole world, ladies and gentlemen. But 80%, 90%, I would say, of Nigerians thinks of nothing but to leave the country, to migrate to another part of the world. Whenever you want to talk to a youth, they'll tell you the economy is horrible. And do you blame them? What is the unemployment rate in Nigeria? Let me show you what we have here from the statistics, from the Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria. This is what we have. This is a live statistics from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Unemployment statistics. Here we go. Look at this. Youth under, they have certain ages. So this is the unemployment statistics in Nigeria in different quarters. These are the various quarters. Look at how it's increasing from 2021, 2022. That is how it's increasing. 2023, that is how it's increasing. Ladies and gentlemen, even though Nigeria is a powerhouse of Africa, and yet this is what the economy looks like. I'll show you this. That was not shared. Look at the statistics of unemployment in Nigeria. Year in, year out, it keeps increasing. Every quarter it goes up. And yet Nigeria is the 11th global producing oil country in the world. It produces 394.02 billion barrels of oil every year, 1.6 billion of barrel every day. And yet the youth of Nigeria, the streets of Nigeria look horrible. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us look further. So why do African youth think that it's only in Europe that they can succeed? The trend is not only, it does not only affect individual youth, but also has significant impact on the social and economic fabrics of African nations. The brain drain result of the loss of skill level that could otherwise contribute to the local development and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us see examples of economic situations and unemployment rates. In Nigeria, high unemployment rates with youth unemployment in 2020 up to 42.5%, driven with economic instability and corruption. In Cameroon, youth unemployment is around 6.8%. I can bet you the statistics from their own ministry is all false because we know the level of unemployment in Cameroon. But unemployment is significantly higher and corruption is even the worst. In South Africa, it faces severe youth unemployment crisis with a rate exceeding 55% due to slow economic growth and significant inequality. And these are all the factors that contribute to young people in Africa dreaming of nothing but to leave Africa. In Zimbabwe, we have up to 70% of youth unemployment. And this has escalated into mismanagement and hyperinflations. In Togo, we have up to 6.5% of youth unemployment. Young people engage in informal and precarious work. This is how bad it is in this country. In Senegal, we have up to 13.4% with limited formal job opportunities despite economic growth. In Sudan, we have up to 34% influenced by political instability. At least we can understand the situation of Sudan because we've known Sudan to be in constant war for decades and decades. At least we can understand the situation of Sudan, but that of South Africa, that of Nigeria, and that of other countries is unexplainable. And we have in Southern Sudan up to 50% of employment. These countries, we can at least say we know why they have this level of unemployment, because of the continuous war that has plagued these countries. Ethiopia, Africa we often look up to as well, has up to 23.3% of unemployment amongst the youth. This is why we are talking about the economic unemployment amongst youth and reasons why why our youth are migrating to Europe, to America, to other parts of the world and hate the idea of living in their own country or the African continent. Eritrea, we have severe hardship, political repression result in high migration rate through exact unemployment figures, and these figures have also been hidden by their data producing company. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one of the many factors that is pushing our young people to leave Africa. Like I said, Nigeria has up to 42.5% as of 2020, and we saw the chart that I just presented. You see how it keeps increasing instead of decreasing, despite the oil and gas sector of Nigeria producing up to 94.3 billion barrels of oil a year, and up to 1.6 million barrels a day. This is how bad it is. In Cameroon, we have this, I don't even want to call this because this is totally not correct, 6.8% of unemployment rate, which is totally not true. And also, we have in South Africa, which we see as also the powerhouse of Africa, having up to 55% of unemployment amongst youth. Why would they not migrate to other countries? I take, for example, I live in Ireland. And Ireland has the number of South Africans that are in Ireland, and you ask yourself, South Africa is like a dream country for all African countries. Why do we have this number of South Africans in a small country as Ireland? Why? Now you can see unemployment is one of the reasons why everybody wants to leave the country. Zimbabwe, We've seen what Zimbabwe, 90%, Jesus, 90%. Why would anybody want to live in a country like that? These are the reasons why some of our young people don't want to stay in Africa. Our youth want to migrate from one country to another, not even in other African countries, but in European countries, in the Americas, in Asia, because they think that success they can only achieve success in these countries, because their countries, the leaders of their countries have made it so, and the economic situation in their country have made it so. If a country has up to 90% of unemployment amongst the youth, who are the future leaders, who are the builders of tomorrow, how on earth can there be any growth in that country? What encourages the youth to stay at home and be innovative and be hardworking and to rebuild their own country and to make it a home? These are some of the factors we are looking. But after we look at all of these factors, at the end of it, what is the way forward? Togo has 6.5% rate of unemployment. Senegal has 13.4. Sudan has 34%. South Sudan has 50%. Ethiopia has 23.3%. Eritrea's own is also unimaginable. Let us go back into history and try to understand this mindset. Why is it that African youth, ladies and gentlemen, think that it's only out of Africa that they can survive? Why is it that each time you want to talk about living in Africa and making Africa a home, it brings so much anger and hatred in the minds of Africa? Africans declare openly that I would rather die in the Sahara Desert, in the Mediterranean Sea, than to live in Africa. Why will anybody hate their own country to the point, or their own continent to the point that they will wish death upon themselves in the heart of the Mediterranean or in the heart of the Sahara instead of living in the country? And these are some of the factors we are looking at. But let us go back to history to know what exactly is happening. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, kindly share your thoughts in the comment section. Let us have a few interaction during this session. If you're here watching, kindly share to your social media platform, invite people to join us in this very important platform, conversation, and also share your thoughts in the comment section because they are very helpful. Let us look at historical context. So to decolonize the mindset, we need to understand the historical context. Colonialism. Colonialism imposed foreign values and systems on us, often undermining indigenous cultures and knowledge. And this is something that we must be able to talk about very critically. When the colonial masters came into Africa, they didn't see anything valuable, any of our practices valuable, or they saw it as a threat to their own growth. Because if we continue to practice our own cultures, our own values, our own knowledge, the things that we inherited from our forefathers, they saw that if they allow us, we will not be able to allow them to penetrate into the very core of our own existence and corrupt our minds, because we had very strong values. So they came in with this doctrine of telling people that this is bad, this culture you're practicing is bad, this we have to modernize this culture, you have to study your twins. If a woman gives birth to twins, they say it's witchcraft, or it's not allowed, they should throw away one, and all of those things. Ladies and gentlemen, they came and corrupted our cultures. They colonized our mind, the culture. They colonized our values. They colonized our own knowledge, our own existence. They came and imposed on us a complete new life that we understand nothing about. We have to relearn everything and forget what we've been taught and what we've been practicing in before they're coming into our own continent. This has left a lasting impact where Western ways are often viewed as superior. And that is the fact. Our forefathers worship different things. That's true. We know we have different cultural practices that are repugnant to natural justice. That's true. But we had values, we had cultures, we were able to innovate things by our own selves. They just came and corrupted our minds and made us to believe that everything we had was rudimentary and everything we had was primitive. And it's only what they introduced to us that is actually what modernized, that is actually what's superior. That is the only thing that we can survive with. And this is the problem of Africa. So decolonization involves reclaiming our heritage, our values, our own cultures, and our own traditions. When you see an African father sending out a child into the world, or maybe sending off a child to school, and he lays his hand to talk to that child in the local, do some incantation, they say it's an abomination. You must only recite certain things, words that have been forced down your throat. That is the only thing that is considered as valuable. But they undermine those words, those traditional words that the father is chanting over their child to send them out into the world for success. They turn our cultures, they made our cultures, the best part of our culture to be, they turn them against us. And people trying to fight back now begin to use it for evil, whereas that was not what we actually was practicing before. So, ladies and gentlemen, decolonizing ourselves. Decolonizing decolonization of our mindset will involve what? Reclaiming our heritage, our values, our own cultures, our own tradition, and redefining success and progress through our own lenses. We have to look at success in different ways. People only these days, you define success only when you see somebody driving a Lamborghini, having mansions and villas. That is the only way they define success. But we must be able to look at success in different ways and through different lenses. By understanding our history, we also dismantle. So when we understand our history, we will also dismantle the remnants of colonial mentality that still influence our decisions today. And this is very true with the leadership in Africa. We have puppets as presidents in Africa who do nothing but listen to their colonial masters. There is no decision they make in their own country that does not involve the input of their colonial masters. Even though Africa has been gained its independence more than 60 years ago, they still depend on them for everything. For strategies, they depend on them for strategies. They depend on them for finances. They come through many disguised ways. They come through philanthropy. They come through aid. They come through different means, and they continue to exert their influence over us. And they determine what we should do with the resources that we receive from them. You go to World Bank, you collect money. They give you conditions, and they start telling you what you have to do, irrespective of if these things are against your own cultures. America comes and impose on you, they want to give you 10 billion or 100 billion if you adopt the LGBTQI stuff in your own country. And this is how they continue to influence us. But we must be able, because we had already made up our minds that there is nothing about us that is good. We only see the Western world as the superior power. We only see them as the only thing that is good. Nothing good comes from Africa for all amongst ourselves. African youth are not smart enough to innovate. African youth are not smart enough to own companies or to do things to innovate that will change the world, because we've already set a bar on us, on our own selves. So, ladies and gentlemen, if African youth, if we must be able to decolonize our mindset, then we should be able to redefine success, the progress through our own lenses. We should be able to do what? Dismantle the institutions of colonialism amongst us and the mentality that they instill in us all these years. That is the only way we can free ourselves, by starting to rebuild Africa by ourselves. Believing in the resources. If we use the resources that we have in Africa to rebuild Africa, then Africa will become the powerhouse of the world. We sit and wait for them to come and exploit the resources we have in Africa. And then we offer cheap labor to them. They come in, they exploit our resources, and at the same time they exploit our labor, and they don't even pay us well. They pay us money for cheap labor. We go into the field and we exploit by ourselves. We extract the resources by ourselves and give it to them, hand it over to them willfully. They take not just our resources, they take our integrity, they take our own dignity, and they take away what? Our labor. That is what they steal away from us. Each time they come in with this idea of they are starting up a company, they've just identified an area where they must have seen some level of natural resources in that area. So they just go there and they claim to be establishing a company there, whereas they are just there to extort the natural resources that are there. And they use us for cheap labor to extort these resources. And we must be able to rise and say no to all of these things, because life does not start and end in the European countries, in the Western world. So what are some of the things that we must do also? Ladies and gentlemen, education and awareness. Education is a powerful tool for decolonization. We need curriculums that include African history, achievement, contributions to the world. This helps build a sense of pride and identity amongst the youth. When youth come up with ideas, we should be able to look into these ideas, examine them, and see how impactful these ideas can be. What can it do to Africa in the long run? And if these ideas are great, we must be able to adopt them, because there is no system in the West that was not introduced by somebody. It has always been an idea that pops into somebody's head, pops into somebody's mind, then they bring it into fruition. Today we are using laptops. It's because somebody had that idea and brought it forth. And that is what we must be able to do in the African continent. Promote it, push it forward, encourage it, and not discourage every single idea that the youth they bring up. Once youth are not supported, once they bring up ideas and they are not supported, there is no reason for them to stay where they cannot be supported. We don't support, the only people we support are footballers. No, it's not only football that we can support in the Africa. We have intellectual ideas that people have that can be supported to grow Africa. So why do our youth need to stay? An educational system celebrates African history and achievement and inspire youth to contribute positively to our societies. They can actually inspire you to contribute positively to our society, fostering a generation that is proud of their roots and motivated to develop their own countries. This is what we need in Africa. This is what we need in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, when we allow the youth are the future. The youth are the foundation of every country. If you go to even all of these European countries where we are struggling to migrate to, dying on the highway, dying in the high sea, dying in the Sahara Desert just to get to these countries, know that their youth are the ones that have built their economy. Because when they come up with ideas, they support it, they push it forward, they nourish their ideas, and they make the youth to be valuable. And in that way, they think at all times. They strive to make things to better themselves and to better their economy, to make a name for themselves. But in Africa, we do not promote talent. We do not promote the strategies or ideas that are brought forth by our young people. We squash them, we discourage them, we don't even allow them to excel. We see talent, we don't promote it. The government does not give room for talent to grow amongst the youth. You see a young man, a very creative artist, you see a painter, you see they don't promote them unless they have people in high places that can pull them. And if there is a talent that does not have somebody in high places to pull them, there is no way that talent will grow. And that is what is killing the African continent and killing our youth, discouraging our youth to even think beyond, to be proactive. Ladies and gentlemen, examples of African countries excelling in education. These are things that we should be able to encourage. When we look at Rwanda, Rwanda from nowhere rose like a phoenix. It just rose from no, despite what Rwanda has gone through, Rwanda is the fastest growing economy in Africa as of now. Rwanda has made significant strides in its educational system over the past decade. The country has focused on improving access to education and has integrated technology into the classroom. Programs like One Laptop Per Child have provided thousands of students with digital learning. And Rwanda, I will say again, is very innovative. Rwanda is the first African country, ladies and gentlemen, to have produced an iPhone made of African resources, complete Africa. And when I saw that iPhone promoted, I was very thrilled and I decided I was going to be the very first persons in Africa to buy that phone. And I bought it in 2019. When I saw President Paul Kagame introducing the phone, the iPhone that was the Android phone, or the phone that was produced in Rwanda, I was so proud to know that Rwanda could produce, we could have a completely produced phone in Africa. And I told myself I was going to be it. And this is how the phone looked like. And I've used that phone since 2019. And I only stopped using it last year because as a woman, I always carrying things here and there. You always have to drop your phone and the screen just got bad. So that is the only reason why I stopped using that phone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a homemade phone from Rwanda. Mara X and Mara Z. These are all made in Rwanda, owned company by Rwanda. This phone was made in Rwanda and was announced, as you can see, that is President Paul Kagame who was going to, and this was reported in CNN. This phone, Mara Z and Mara X, were all made in Rwanda by the Mara Group in Rwanda and was made by African products. Yes, like you can see here, countries like Egypt, Algeria, South Africa, they've been doing phones. They were able to produce phones, but they also imported parts of the materials that they used, components of these phones from different countries. But this was made completely in Rwanda by a Rwandan company, the Maraze. And this is an amazing product. And this is what we are talking about. These are the things we want to see. And this is made in 2019, ladies and gentlemen. 2019, that is when we had our first ever made phone in Africa, completely made of Africa. How can this be? In 2019, when did Android phones start existing? When did iPhone start existing? When did we start having these things into existence in the Western world? And it had to be in 2019 for Rwanda to rise and make and produce this. But still, we appreciate the fact that at least we have something that is coming from our own continent, because we have all the natural resources in Africa that can enable us to do this. And if you don't mind, I want to share this video. These are people, this is what power, the iPhones, everything in.
We're looking at a video now. This is so crazy to see.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone.
I'm just going to share that again, just to make sure that the volume is up. I just want to make sure that the volume is up. This is just to illustrate what we spend our time doing while we work for others and we are here suffering in Africa, whereas we have all the resources, all what it takes for us to produce our own. I'll share that once again, so you can hear by yourself
We're looking at a video now. This is so crazy to see.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung.
Right.
It's all of them, right? All of them. And here's what you need to know, Joe, about this video. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now, that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's more than 15,000 human beings crammed into that pit, digging by hand. And if you have sound, you hear the mallets, you hear the shouting, you hear the grunts. Thousands of individuals clanking away for $1 or $2 a day. Okay? All that stuff, that cobalt's toxic to breathe. They're breathing it in all day.
No masks,
No masks,
no filtration
no
systems.
gloves, no. Half those guys are in flip-flops. We're supposed to be living in this enlightened era. To see kids up to their shoulders, caked in this filth and grime and toxic. I mean, to see teenagers walking around with babies on their back, all inhaling this toxic.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is just to show you that we have everything it takes to rebuild Africa. Yes, those are our people exploited by the West. They come into our countries, they flash a little bit of money to the government just sells us to them. And they use our labor, they use so cheap labor, they take us for granted. Everything they own, they take it from us. We don't have companies in Africa that can truly produce phones in its entirety, except this one that Rwanda did. Other African countries have been producing, but with components brought in from other parts of the world. But as you can see, those are miners, and that is what produced all of these phones that we are using. And where do they get all the mineral resource, the material from? From Africa. They get it from Africa, take it to their own countries, build these items, and then bring it back to us, and we buy them at very expensive rates, whereas we have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are talking about, the African youth. The need for us to rebuild, to reset the African, to decolonize our mindset, because Africans, our governments are also a major problem to us. The reason why our youth are leaving. We have these resources, and yet the government willfully sell it out to the Europeans. They use it to rebuild these items and then bring it back to sell to us at very exorbitant prices. And we buy and complain on a daily basis. It's a painful situation, ladies and gentlemen. Comrade Kecha, if you want to come on live, I can send you an invitation to just come on live and speak on this particular topic. I would like to know what you think. If you have something to say in the comment, if you want to come live now and say something, I'll be happy to bring you live for a few minutes so you can express yourself. This is about the youth of Africa. We must be able to talk about these things because we have accepted it as normalcy. It's not normal because our leaders have made us to believe that we cannot succeed in Africa except in European countries or in the West. Again, like I said, education is very important to empower the African youth. Education is very important. And Comrade Kecha, if you can share the link and just invite people in various forums to just join in this conversation, I'll truly appreciate that. Just send a message in different forums and just invite people to join on this very important conversation. Like I said, Rwanda has risen like a phoenix in the 21st century. Despite what Rwanda went through, Rwanda has risen. And Rwanda is one of the major countries that has invested a lot in its education. And I just brought in the aspect of the phone that Rwanda produced. And now let's talk about Ghana. Ghana has also made a notable improvement in its educational system. And in 2017, the government of Ghana introduced the senior high school free education, which means that there is no discrimination, whether you come from the north, the south, the east, the west, whether you're poor or you're improper, or you come from the wealthy family, you are entitled to access free senior high school education in Ghana. And this is, once again, I'm going to share my screen here just to show you what the free education system in Ghana is. It has come with its own benefit, and it also has come with its own challenges. But does that make it not to be more innovative? Here is the Ghana education system. Here you can see that if the policy is free education for a senior high school. So with this, since 2017 and between 2017 and 2018, the Ghana Education Board introduced this, the government, the system introduced this free education. And the beautiful thing about it is I can speak very authoritatively on this topic because I've lived in Ghana and I worked in this area, and my dissertation was on the challenges to female education in northern Ghana. And I'm so happy that this was introduced in Ghana, because there was a lot of discrimination with the female child in northern Ghana, because northern Ghana, in as much as we celebrate Ghana as being one of the powerhouses in Africa in terms of education, the northern Ghana female child, most importantly, was deprived and relegated when it comes to education. And that is where I focused my dissertation during my master's studies, the challenges to female education in northern Ghana. And I went deep because I've worked in the very hinterlands of the northern part of Ghana. But I focused my dissertation in the Savlugu Nantong district because of the where I decided to center that dissertation. And I'm so happy, but the challenges we are having at this level is the fact that as the introduction was made, so now we have more students than the infrastructures, which is a major problem. It has always been a major problem in Ghana, because during my time in Ghana, there were a lot of uncompleted educational, uncompleted buildings, schools. If this government comes up and starts an educational infrastructure, once the government leaves power, the other government does not complete that educational infrastructure because they don't want to credit it to the previous government. And you have uncompleted buildings everywhere, completed school buildings everywhere in northern Ghana and in other parts of the south. And you see a lot of children attending schools under the tree, ladies and gentlemen, without proper benches to sit and write. They sit on stones and they write on their laps. And this is a challenge that we are facing with this free educational system infrastructure, which I believe it's going to be sorted out, but we applaud the government's policy to allow every child to be educated, because this is what Africa needs. We need to educate our children, not just educate the children, but educate them with the history of Africa and the values of Africa, not just importing European values on us and making us believe that we have nothing to offer in Africa, but European values. Because the innovation, just like Kenya also introduced I'm going to be sharing this one as well. Kenya also introduced the program of laptop for every child in the IT department. They provide instruments like this for children to start learning. The ICT department or in their schools have been introduced so that people can actually learn all of these things, which is very important. So we begin to build them from the very young ages so that by the time they are getting to their teenage ages, they are already developing ideas, they are already developing strategies, they are already innovating. This is what we need. And this is actually an applaudable initiative by the government of Kenya, because here Kenya implemented the competency-based curriculum, that is to replace the traditional educational system, focus on developing practical skills and competencies among youth, preparing them for the job market. Kenya has also been seen in integrating the ICT into education with initiatives like the digital literacy program, providing digital devices to primary school students. And as you can see here, this is what Kenya is doing. So the children may use now these digital devices to study, which is very important. By the time a child comes out from school, they'll be able to know They know how to use the computer, laptops, and phones to be able to improve themselves. And again, we saw what Kenya is also doing in terms of their education. They've really introduced this ICT into the educational system and providing every primary school child with a laptop, with a tablet where they can use to study, which is applaudable. And this is what we want to see other countries to emulate, so that the African continent, they can build our children to be ready for the job market. Build our children to be ready for the job market. And now we have Botswana that has consistently invested in its educational system as well. In Botswana, they have the continuous professional development. The Botswana investment in also invested in vocational and technical education, which has provided students the opportunity to be job market ready once they graduate from school. And we have in Mauritius, they've also boosted their educational system. And these are the things that we want to see in most African countries, so that once our children are leaving the classroom, they should be ready for the job market. But when they are ready for the job market, the government should also be able to make available these jobs for them. African countries, African leaders, every country in Africa can transform their educational system in a way. At least they've copied from the West for more than 60 years. I think by now they should be able to innovate themselves and also develop their curriculums and develop their educational institutions and create different departments within their own universities and primary schools, secondary school, high schools, that will prepare our youths to be able to come out and be market free and be market ready. So African countries can transform their educational system to better service their youth and prepare them for the future. It starts from the leadership. And then encourage the students, encourage the people. Once we have an encouraging leadership. Look at Rwanda. Who wouldn't want to go to school? Look at Ghana. All the children, those who have left school for so many years, went back to school because they had the opportunity to better themselves. Most people don't go to school because of the finances. Most people don't go to school because of the economic situation of the country. Now Ghana introduced a free educational system. That is an innovation that should be applauded. And other countries to do same. Does it compromise the quality of the education? No, it doesn't. From what we know, it doesn't compromise the quality of the education. It only helps to build a youth that is educated, ready to build a country. Economic empowerment. Another crucial step is economic empowerment. Youths need opportunities within their own countries to strive. If you don't have opportunities in your own country for your youths to strive, with those opportunities, they will definitely move, because they have responsibilities. They have dreams to fulfill. They have families to take care of, because they also have their own dreams to fulfill. So if a country does not have the opportunities that the youth needs, the youth will definitely leave that country to other countries, to go to places where they can find these opportunities. This means supporting local businesses, investing in technology, innovation, and creating a favorable environment for entrepreneurship. These are most of the things that we lack in our African countries. We don't encourage innovation. We don't promote, we don't invest in technology. We do not create opportunity, favorable environment for entrepreneurship. Somebody wants to start up a business in Africa. The taxes alone are enough to shut down the business. And this is why most of our youth are discouraged. The taxes alone are enough to shut down the business. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the African youths need. We must be able, the governments and the leaders of African nations, if they want our youths to stay back home and rebuild the African continent, we need to provide favorable environment, invest in technology, innovations, creating environment for people to excel. supporting businesses, provide opportunities. There are a lot of countries, most of the people in the European country and in the Western world are succeeding because their governments have a lot of fundings for small scale businesses, people that want to start off businesses, people that have ideas. You see people investing in those ideas. And that is how they grow. But we don't have those opportunities in Africa. People have ideas, but they cannot put them into fruition because they lack the support. They don't have the means. But we want to copy the West. We allow our youths to migrate to the West because the governments of those countries, they support their youth. They invest, they put in billions and trillions of euros and dollars in non-profits to support new businesses, to support innovation, to support technology. People come up with ideas, immediately they pitch it, they support them. But we don't have this in Africa. And this is why our youth are moving. And if African youths must build Africa for Africa, we must be able to encourage our youth, encourage entrepreneurship, invest in technologies, invest in innovation, support small, large scale and medium-sized enterprises, businesses. So by showcasing successful local businesses and providing access to resources, we can inspire youth to see the potentials in their own countries. This is a fact. Once the government is able to support local businesses, providing access to resources, supporting ideas, it will inspire youth to see the potential of living in their own countries. You will no longer hear youth screaming that they would rather die in the Mediterranean than to see themselves in Africa. They will rather die. How can you wish death upon yourself than your own country? Staying and investing in local economies can drive economic growth, create jobs and reduce poverty. It empowers youth to become job creators rather than job seekers, which is vital for sustainable development. And talking about sustainable development, ladies and gentlemen, let us look at what African Agenda 2063 says. What are the key priorities? What are the key goals of African Agenda 2063? Let us look at what it says. So the African Agenda 2063, it has its priorities and its goals. But what we are talking about innovation, we are talking about investing in the youth, we are talking about promoting small scale businesses, we are talking about investing in the educational sector, in technology and entrepreneurship. But what does the African Agenda 2063 says on this aspect? Let us look at the goals and the priority areas of this agenda. So this is what the Africa Agenda 2063 63 says. Look at the aspirations. Here are the aspirations and here are the goals, priority areas. If you look at the goals, it says high standard of living, quality of life and well-being for all citizens. Then at the priority areas, it says income, jobs and decent work. It is very important. Decent work is very important. The previous video we watched, we saw how people were mining in the most crude and brutal forms. That is not job. That is surviving. That is not a job. And that is not a decent job. And then the priority says poverty, to eliminate poverty, inequality and hunger, social insecurity and protection, including persons with disability, modern, affordable and living habits and quality basic services. This is what it says under what? High standard of living, quality of life and well-being for all citizens. These are the priorities. So the aspiration for Africa is this: a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And so this is the goal and these are the priorities. And so what are the other goals we have here? It says well-educated citizens and skilled renovation underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. We have healthy and well-being, nourished citizens. We have a transformed economy. And the priority says what? Education, science, technology, innovation, different skills, and all of that stuff. So this is what the Africa Agenda 2063 says. Now, well-educated citizen. How do we get well-educated citizens? If we just have the same educational system we've always had since the colonial masters came, and the only thing we believe in is that it's only when we travel abroad and get the same the education abroad that we'll be well-educated and will be valued. When the Europeans or the Western citizens come to our country, whether they come to study or do anything, we do not force them to do another 1-year course in our universities before we can consider their certificate. We consider their certificate as hey and amen, as holy and as it is. But when you carry your own degree from an African university and travel to their country, before you are enrolled in another program, you have to go through another 1 year of training in their own system before they can consider you as qualified. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we go through. But we are African youth, they don't mind at all to go even 4 years to add to the same lengthy educational system that we have in Africa to be able to stay in the Western world. We don't mind at all. But this agenda is talking about educated citizens. We must be able to reform our educational system and curriculum in ways that once a student is graduating, they must be job market ready, and they self-employed, self-reliant, and everything. And this is what we are talking about. Modern education, modern agriculture for increased productivity and production. We talk of this every day, and yet we still practice rudimentary agriculture and sustainable agriculture. We do not practice high skilled and high level agriculture with sophisticated technology. A united Africa. Look at what it says here. As an aspiration, it says an integrated continent, politically united based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africans' Renaissance. This is what it all says. But how far is this? What has been done so far, ladies and gentlemen? We can't read all of this. It has all the priorities areas. But what I wanted to bring out was that it talks about renovation. It talks about education. It talks about improving unemployment and improving the lives of citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, and also better ways to help our youth is by doing what? Modern models, role models and mentors play a significant role in shaping the aspiration of young people, highlighting successful Africans who have this also helped educate our people. Once we highlight Africans who have made it, it encourages young Africans to be able to be innovative. And I have brought out a list. I'm just going to share my screen once again, and I will just bring out some people who have been very inspiring, who have stood out despite the challenges in the continent. They have stood out. This year is, I will not be able to pronounce his name very well, but Iyanolua Aboyiji. He's a Nigerian, the co-founder of Adela and Florida Wave. We all know what, if you have used YouTube, you will definitely know what Florida Wave is. It's a way of sending out money to one country, from one country to another, and they're very significant at very low rates. And we can see that he is the co-founder, he's the CEO and co-founder of that. And we have this incredible young lady here from South Africa who is doing so amazing. These are people young people can look up to, role models. You see, Tato, I can't pronounce the other name, that is from South Africa. He's a founder of that Rekanda, which produces repurposed school bags made from recycled plastic bags and integrated with solar technology to provide light for studying after dark. And so her innovation addresses both environmental and educational challenges in her community, and she is doing incredibly well in that area. And we can see also this is a business tycoon, the Ghana business tycoon, Fred Swanike, a Ghanaian, the founder of African Leadership University, which is refining higher education in the continent, right? And the university focuses on leadership and entrepreneurial skills to prepare young Africans for future challenges. This is what we are talking about. Bring out people who have made it so that they can be role models for our African youth, to encourage them to be able to stay and focus in Africa. And we have Olatorere of Nigeria, the CEO of dressmullet.com, an e-commerce platform for fashion, beauty, health products in Africa, and all of that stuff. And we also have this tycoon from Rwanda. Is also an entrepreneur and a founder who owns a company that produces affordable and eco-friendly energy solutions from waste. And his work addresses energy shortages and waste management issues in Rwanda. And we have incredible, these are other people. This is from Sierra Leone, and she is making significant stride in telecommunication industry, improving connectivity and digital innovations, inclusion in Sierra Leone, and all of that. So we have all of these people who have been serving, who are doing great, which are people that we can look up to. And these are all young Africans, entrepreneurs that can be used as role models. So to encourage ourselves to know that we can also make it in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we can make it in Africa. Okay. And please, again, if you're watching, even you're watching now or you're watching later, kindly subscribe to my channel and kindly share, like, and comment. Let us have your thoughts, share your thoughts in the comment section, and we would love to read from you, and we will be happy to do what. We'll be happy to communicate via the comment section. And if ever you have a very important topic you want to talk about, you want us to share ideas on Africa, what Africa should become, what you want to see from Africa, the leaders, from leadership to you and I who are ordinary citizens, let us have your thoughts in the comment section, and we would love to bring you on board. Okay. So what about the policies and the governance? Governance and policymakers also have a crucial role to play. They need to create policies that support youth development, reduce corruption, and ensure economic benefit reaches all levels of society. Right. So good governance and transparency are essential to creating a stable environment where youth feel comfortable, where youth can strive, and where youth can build their own future. So, for example, corruptions and financial misappropriation that has really resulted in many of the problems that our youth are having today, and have caused or have pushed most of our youths to leave Africa and go to other parts of the world. Let's talk about different countries amongst us, the countries that we've mentioned as economic powers in Africa, including countries like Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, when you talk of Nigeria, Nigeria is notorious for high level of corruption, with Transparency International ranking it as 147th out of the 180 countries in its corruption prescription index. Cameroon, which has ranked itself twice as the first most corrupt country in Africa. Oh yeah, that I know for a fact. We've seen this before. Cameroon is widespread. It is known for its widespread corruption affecting various sectors of hindering economic development. South Africa itself has been facing significant issues with corruption, particularly the government contracts and public services. Government contractors and public services. So in Zimbabwe, we've also seen an increasing rate of corruption and economic misappropriation or mismanagement that has crippled the economy. We heard from the beginning the level of unemployment in Zimbabwe. It was at 90, leading to severe hyperinflations and unemployment, which is horrible. And these are the things that drive our youth nuts. These are the things that pushes our youth out of the continent. And this is not what we want for our African youth. We want to have our youth in Africa, to rebuild Africa. We have Togo. Togo corruption remains a significant challenge, affecting public trust, economic growth, and all of that. And Senegal, despite some progress, corruption still impacts its economy and social development. We have Sudan. Political instability and corruption has severely hindered economic growth in that part of the world. Sudan has gone through a lot of years and decades of a civil war, and it has affected its country's economy, its growth, its social life, everything. That is why there is so much a level of unemployment in that part of the world, and we can understand that. But Zimbabwe, we don't have a war in Zimbabwe. Why are we having 90% of Zimbabweans' youths unemployed? South Sudan, the endemic corruption and conflict have resulted in a collapsed economy and extreme poverty. We have Ethiopia. While experiencing economic growth, corruption still affects the various fabrics of its society, the various sectors. Eritrea lacks transparency and political repression that makes corruption difficult to assess, which makes corruption very difficult to assess. Pardon me. It's believed to be widespread. That's corruption for you in Africa. These are just some of the countries I'm just talking about. And this goes to every African country. If there is no African country that you can really pick it out and say, oh, this is a role model that does not practice corruption. You see widespread corruption that has affected a lot of people stealing from the coffers, hindering economic growth, hindering infrastructure in the economy because they feed their private pockets and their families with the resources, the country's resources, instead of building the country. So effective policies can create a more conducive environment for business, education, and innovation. And this, in turn, can reduce the push factor that drives youth to seek opportunities out elsewhere. These are very important factors. The leaders of our nations must be able to fight corruption at every fabric of the society, because they've normalized corruption. When you are elected into government offices in Africa, when you don't steal, they call you stupid. When you don't steal, they say you're not smart, you're not using your head. And that is how, because that has become a trend, that has become a system, that has become a norm, it has become a policy that stealing is allowed. When you're elected to government, instead of serving the people, you serve your pocket. And once you try to serve the people, they say you're not smart, you're stupid. We must be able to beat corruption in every fabric of our society. It is only then that we can be able to redirect, funnel the money to where it's supposed to go. In that way, our countries will be developed and the youth will see a reason to stay back at home, because you can't be graduated from the university for 10 years. You're still looking for your first job after graduation. Why will anybody stay in that kind of economy? If you want to start up a business, the taxes that the government brings on you automatically kills your dream. When you want to be self-employed, you don't even have the opportunity because there are no fundings to even encourage you to start up your own organization or your own business. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the very basic factors that are pushing our youth out, but we must be able to stand against this. Community and cultural revival. For us to be able, ladies and gentlemen, to convince our youths to stay back and rebuild Africa for Africa and rebuild our future, we must also return to community and a cultural revival. We said before that when the whites came, when the West came, they infiltrated our cultures, our communities, our everything. They turned it upside down and they made us to believe that everything we practiced was primitive and only what they introduced was superior and modern. So communities must come together to revive and celebrate their cultural heritage. Festivals, art, and storytelling can all play a part in recognizing our own roots. So by embracing our cultural identity, we foster a sense of what belonging and pride, reducing the allure of foreign lands. Staying and engaging in community and cultural activities strengthens social cohesion and ensures the transmission of cultural values to future generations. It builds a society where everyone feels connected and valued. And I will tell you this for a fact. I have lived, I worked in the Irish community, and I know the importance of community in the Irish society. They value their community more than anything. They value, there is strength in their communities. Coming together, organizing activities as a community, volunteering within their communities, offering support amongst themselves is what has held the Irish community together ever since their independence, because they went through a lot in the hands of the Brits. And that is what held them together. But they came in our own countries and distorted our own foundations, our own heritage, our own cultural values, but they hold on to theirs, and we allow them to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, we must return to our values, our cultural heritage. We must strengthen ourselves through what our ancestors had. We are not asking for us to go and practice evil. We throw away what is not good. It is the same thing when you enter the laboratory and you're testing something. Once it's not good, you throw it out, and whatever is good, you hold on to it and you push it. This is what we are talking about. Decolonizing the mindsets of African youths. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we must decolonize the minds of African youths, then we must be able, ladies and gentlemen, to focus on our own identity. We must promote our own perspective. So now let us look at what incorporating the African Agenda 2063 means to our African. So African Agenda 2063 highlights the importance of cultural renewal and African identity, which is very important, the identity of Africans. We have lost our identity because we are trying to hide behind the Western world's identity. We no longer, you're not proud to say with your shoulders lifted up, with your chest lifted, where you come from. Because you've acquired a nationality in one foreign country, you start telling yourself, oh, I'm Irish, I'm British, I'm Canadian, I'm American, I'm Belgian, I'm German, and so forth and so forth. It's sickening. It's sickening. And we must be able to embrace our cultural identity, the Africanness in us, the identity that we have. We have a lot of Africans, intellectuals across the world. If we were all to migrate back to Africa and rebuild Africa, ladies and gentlemen, Africa will be the strongest warehouse in the world. America is today proud of itself because it took away our forefathers and used them as slaves, and they built America to what it is. Imagine if we all return back home to Africa, We all return back home to Africa with all the knowledge. Okay, they've extorted our resources. Okay, we went to their universities and we studied, but bring back the knowledge that we all acquired from these universities, from wherever we are across the world, and rebuild Africa with this knowledge and make Africa a home for Africans. And then you will begin to appreciate the Africanness in us, because most of us, we deny who we are. You don't even want to say, I come from this part of Africa. You keep identifying yourself with the European country where you've gotten citizenship, or in the Western country where you've gotten citizenship. Oh, I'm Chinese, I'm South Korea, and your face blacks like your face is as black as mine. And you're an American, and yet you're as black as I am. You're British, you're Belgian, you're this, you're... Ladies and gentlemen, we must, as a people, arise and renew, just like the African Agenda 63 says. It highlights the importance of cultural renewal and Africa identity. We must begin to re-embrace the ideals of Africanism, the Pan-Africanism. United Africa, a people with values, to promote the preservation of cultural heritage and celebrate diverse cultures as a unifying force. This is what we must do to rebuild Africa, so that the youth of Africa must remain in Africa, to build Africa and make a future and a future for Africa. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've been on for almost 2 hours. Like I said, if you're just tuning in, share your thoughts in the comment section. We are talking about African youth and why they migrate to different parts of the world, but what can be done for African youth to remain and rebuild Africa the way it is for Africa. So, conclusively, what do we do? Actions, the call for action. It's very important that our African leaders must implement in its entirety the wordings of African Agenda 2063. In this way, we must rebuild the various sectors in our different countries to encourage our youth, but most importantly, empower our youth to remain in Africa, to stay in Africa. We must fight corruption. The very fabrics of corruption must be dismantled within our various societies, in our various governments, in our countries, in every place, office that we enter. Because, like it is said, I listened to PLO Lumumba, and he said, once you are elected into an office and you cannot steal, you're called stupid. If you choose to do the right thing, you're called stupid. They say you're not using your head. They say you're wasting. The people that took you into that office wasted their time. So they can't wait for the next term of election to come for you to be kicked out, because they want somebody who steals, because they've made it a law. It has become a normal practice, normalcy for people to steal. Decolonizing the mindset of African youths and preventing migration in a multifaceted challenge, right? It is actually a challenge because our minds have already been colonized. We have seen that success we can only succeed in the West. It is only in the West that we can succeed, but we forget that the West succeeds because of Africa. The resources in our continent is what has enriched and empowered the West. So we must be able. So by doing, and it has been decades of colonized minds. So for us to be decolonized, our minds to be decolonized, we must understand our history, reforming our educational system, empowering our economies, providing role models, ensuring good governance, reviving cultural heritage, and we also can build brighter future for our continent if we do all of these things. So, African Agenda 2063 provides a comprehensive roadmap for Africa transformation. So this is the call for African leaders to make sure that the African Agenda 2063 is implemented in its entirety. By aligning our efforts with these goals, we can ensure sustainable development, increase a continent where every youth has the opportunity to strive and to succeed. So we work together to achieve a vision for Agenda 2063. So ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize this enough. If we want to have a resilient youth, a youth that is empowered, we must be able to work collectively to take these actions to create a prosperous and a self-reliant Africa for African youths, to make sure that our youth stay in the continent. Our youths are the future of Africa. And we, the youth, we must be able to rethink and reshape our mindset, because Africa is for Africa. We must rebuild Africa. There is so much in Africa. It's not only in the West that we can succeed. The West has succeeded because of Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough for this session. Thank you for watching. And please, like I said, do not forget to share. Do not forget to like. Do not forget to comment. Comment your thoughts in the comment section, and we will have an interaction in the comment section. Let us know what you think about this topic. How do you want us to go about it in next time? If you're interested to be part of the panel discussion to talk about the youth, African youth, and why we should stay in the African continent and be our future back home, let us know in the comment section, and we'll be happy to bring you on board to discuss this very important topic. And that was me, your host, Cecilia Amabo. Thank you very much for your time. And please share your thoughts in the comment section, and we will get back to you and bring us topics that you like us to discuss when it comes to rebuilding Africa, reviving the spirit of Africanism, and strengthening the youth of Africa to stay in Africa, because we've lost a lot of our youth in the Mediterranean Sea and in the Sahara Desert, struggling to cross over to the West to survive, because they believe it is only in the West that they can survive. But we have to start decolonizing our minds, decolonizing the minds of our youth, speaking to our government, calling our government to account, holding them accountable. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure to bring you this conversation, and I'm so grateful to those of you who watch and those who will be watching later. Like I said, share your thoughts in the comment section, and we will have a more deeper conversation. This is a very deep and very extensive topic that we can spend over a month talking about it on a daily basis. And so if you want to be part of a panel discussion to talk about African youth, the migration, what pushes them away, what the government should be doing, what our government should be doing, how we should hold our government accountable, how should African youth rebuild Africa, what should be done, your thoughts on how we can revive the spirit of Pan-Africanism and rebuild Africa, the future of Africa back home by Africans, we will be happy to have you on board. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. This is me, your host, Cecilia Amabo, and see you next time. God bless you.